the identity isn't quite there for London United. They've kind of been all over the place with their drafts, with how they play the macro game. I think, if there's one thing that is, certain, is that Icy Gale is a bit of a man on a mission with some of his carry picks. Obviously, we saw him kind of dismantle the enemy top jungle yesterday on that Yone pick, or on a Tuesday with that Yone pick, which was absolutely phenomenal coming out from him. Even after getting bullied, even after getting, sort of dove, missing CS, still managed to make the Yone pick work into the Renekton and into the Xin Zhao. And again, London United, they're on the red side, so that's such a big bonus for them in picking up some of these wins. Giving Icy Gale that counter pick, I think, is just the way to go. And I was wondering if Domino were going to make the mistake. They took it to the third ban. They will remove the Rengar. Gwen, Caitlyn, Senna, Riven removed away from Ripped, which seems to be the very common thing here from him. And of course, Jinx, which let's see now how Domino want to approach. Because again, we've seen this very heavy CC competition come out of them time and time again. Are we going to see that Twisted Fate first picked again? Are we going to see any of those hard CC champs locked in? Obviously, hovers are hovers. Let's see what Domino want to do with their B1. And it looks like actually kind of a straight up diversion away from that. It's going to be the Corki coming in at that first pick.
Yeah, very little CC provided, but the damage is madness. And they're going to be putting the ball into London United's court, saying, look, you know what, we're playing mid. What's your solution and what are you putting priority on? Because they've also been watching Division 1, but hovers are okay. Could still go to KZ. It is flexible. But I like Kusei's the kind of player who would do this.
This is the thing. Kusei is the kind of player that would do this. I've obviously sort of watched very briefly over the course of the last year or so, Kusei being the UKEL and such. Definitely the kind of player that would willingly pick the Kai'Sa here. Super early on, an early adopter of the pick maybe. But KZ also, it's a comfort champion, very, very proficient at it as well. So let's just sort of hold our breath, see what happens with that. As for now, it will be this Jhin locked in, so another sort of long-ranged AD carry here. Can provide a lot of utility via that curtain call. And I think for Sidon, he's lent on this Sejuani for the last couple of games. Will he do something else? It looks like maybe the Trundle lock could be the thing. The first hover, of course, but we don't talk about hovers all the time. I think for now, you probably still want to go the jungle route, and it will actually end up being the Trundle. Doesn't want to lean on something like the Lee Sin, or of course the Jarvan. Wants some more of that dueling potential out of his position.
Which makes sense when you're coming up against the Xin Zhao. Now London United will decide where they're picking and then where they're banning. Of course, they've got the opportunity to go for something like the Camille, very strong in that top lane, but picking that one blind, maybe looking to remove a couple of the strong picks away from it. There's the Jax, which would suggest so. And it's going to be on Domino to see where they want to defend, because they can now look to try and defend, well, the Corki mid potentially if they don't think that this is going to be the Kai'Sa into it, but you've got to match the blue Ruby, so maybe protect the Jhin with a couple of support lanes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough position from Domino. You can probably see that they're scratching their heads, they're taking really long. They're going to remove away the Nautilus for now. Just say, all right, we're not going to give over a super easy to execute hard engage support. Maybe they just lay that in with the Nautilus, with the Leona rather as well, as we'll see the Gragas removed away. So let's see what Rip will have into this Camille, because top lane pool isn't necessarily thinned, but of course, it's definitely very difficult to play certain kind of tanks, such as the Ornn, into the likes of the Camille, just because you kind of just give her a free lane in many cases. So let's see where this Kai'Sa's going. So I imagine we'll have the picks probably revealed now, unless London United, they just say, all right, just blind support. But I think you've got the AD, you know that mid and the AD matchup. I think you just probably reveal where this Kai'Sa's going. And we should get our answer right about now, as the Ezreal confirms we will be seeing this Kai'Sa mid. And I think one thing that surprised me yesterday about it was just the amount of early game damage that could come out of it. Now, I do think as well, we're kind of probably not used to laning into the Kai'Sa, and especially not like Halo Blade's Kai'Sa mid, as we saw him kind of just eat up a lot of sort of single target Cathian Reigns, which, that damage does stack up, especially when you're talking about Halo Blade autos. But now for Domino, what they're going to do, they're going to go down this Renekton lane. They're going to try and smash the Camille in lane with that pick. And you'd imagine now towards the support role, highlight the Thresh. I think it probably makes the most sense, just as a sort of staple, here's the Lantern type support. They also do need another true form of hard engage, but they themselves have removed away the Nautilus and the Leona, so I'm not really sure what's still left up in the Babel. You could maybe go the Rel. I think if they're really capable of playing that would be the next one down the line. Of course, the Rakan too. And I think that's probably a really great takeaway. But now I feel like the issue is, if Divinus plays Rel, this is a pretty damn good Rel game for Divinus as well. You've got loads of mobile carries to catch up and follow up with. and you can also lock down the Rakan in many facets. I think the Rakan pick is smart because if you give Rakan over to London United, I think the mobility scaling is absolutely crazy through the roof for London. But now, I think, yeah, there you go. Down ladder, the rail gets locked in. I think it was always going to be about which one ends up on what side here between Domino and London United. Got our drafts. Very spicy coming out with this Kaiser pick again from London United, but, you know, we've seen it yesterday. It definitely works. Definitely seems like it's very strong into this Corki. Just about whether or not Kusei can actually manage this lane and actually play it out properly, and whether or not Shaolin, you know, has been on his toes, watched the game yesterday, is very aware that this pick could have come out, because it hasn't, of course. Ice Scale on that side lane and scaling pick. You know what you can do with it. Looking at Domino, I'm saying, you know, you've got a fair amount of setup on the side lanes. How do you intend to shut down some of the scaling that is offered by the London draft?
This is one of the big questions, is how are you going to deal with these side lanes? Because you've got the Renekton, which can do so much work, but Renektons have been
hit or miss.
Yeah, pretty much. And sometimes you can just build it a little bit incorrectly, or you can go for a build that doesn't work in the situation, and suddenly you're up against Icy Gale staring down a 3-0 Camille and going, well, I lose this fight every single time. Which is not optimal for Domino. Yeah, they have the Trundle, which is a great duelist, but again, not having the best time into Camille, and needs to be with the team because he's the one with the smite, unless something very funky is going on. And you've given lots of safety over to London United. The only question mark for me really is in this mid lane a question of how good is Kusei on the Kaiser? Has a day been enough warning for Shaolin on the Corki, which is the much more traditional standard pick? And if Domino can get stuff going early with a Renekton with a Trundle, then suddenly things look pretty grim for London United. Yeah, they can kind of disengage and run away, but they can't really get much done.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair criticism of the draft. But I think, you know, sort of the scaling can maybe carry them out of it. I think, you know, still very mobile, a lot of these carries. And there's not a lot of immediate point-and-click card TC. You know, you've got the Renekton, you've got, you know, the Rakan, which can be reacted to. The Trundle pillar shouldn't really be much of an issue for most of the champions here on London United in one way or another, conditionally, of course. So, yeah, I feel like looking at London, it's like, okay, how do you facilitate this Kaiser and ensure that she gets the laning phase that she wants? How do you sort of shut down maybe the Renekton Trundle diving the Camille? This is how I want to see, or these are the things that I want to see London tackle and tackle efficiently. And it's also the things that I want to see Domino execute on properly.
Yes.
Try and shut down that Kaiser. She can be vulnerable pre-6 to the likes of a Trundle pillar. As long as you're tracking the Xin Zhao properly, as long as you know where Dunlosi is, you can always attack the mid lane. And as long as you know what about the wave states and in the top side, sort of 2 waves in advance, you can always get that information down to the jungler, down to Sidon, and say, okay, come up here to the top side in about 30 seconds time because we can dive her on a stacked wave.
I think the question, this game is going to be a case of London United have to problem solve their way through the early game. They have to kind of work out the situations as they're going and say, how can we get all the bits together to survive and thrive in this situation? But it's on Domino to ask those questions. It's on Domino's to set the puzzles. Because if London United aren't asked questions of early, suddenly you've got a Trundle, you've got a Renekton that aren't going to be doing too much if they're not ahead. And there's all the tools in the world and then some on the side of London United. And at that point, it's like, well, we get to the 20-minute mark. Nothing's been gained by either side particularly, but London United might start running away with it, which is something that is questionable because we saw this in game 1. We kind of had the same idea where Verdant were like needing to be on the pulse, and they were pretty slow for the first 20 minutes of the game before they finally took control. So it's not like a case of you can't say 20 minutes in, they might as well FF because London United win the game. That's not how League of Legends works, certainly anymore. But I do think that if Domino don't ask the right questions, or if London United have the answers for those questions, then it's going to become much more difficult for Domino to be able to effectively close out.
No, 100%. I think there are some aspects to Domino's draft which can make it very hard to close out. You know, very limited means of hard engage, right? You've just about kind of got the Rakan, the pillar if people sort of step out of line. And that's kind of it. Package removed from Shaolin too. It's only the 3 real options they have. So you're basically looking at, you know, having solid vision set up in the mid game to allow Rip to find these kind of flanks, which give him backline access. But even then, yeah, I mean, dealing with the likes of a Kai'Sa and an Ezreal, so mobile. I mean, flanking on a champion like Renekton that doesn't really have that much lockdown, right? It has to really, or like large gap close, not like the Camille does, to get on top of these very mobile carries. I think things become very difficult for Domino in that regard. So I think this is obviously the point of interest, right? This mid lane matchup. How is Kusei going to treat Shaolin in this one? Definitely a much better start than the lane we saw yesterday for the Corki. Chunked out quite heavily.
Still got health bar in this
Still
one.
got health bar. Yeah, that's
Game over. GG, good one, Domino. Aljamada, talk to me. Where do you want to see action early? I know you mentioned the Trundle being able to play around mid, potentially. Is this going to be a question of Kusei can't step up even slightly, or is this much more on correct execution from Domino?
I think probably correct execution from Domino with a mixture of, Kusei maybe getting a little bit too aggressive just because, he might understand that the matchup is very, very his side, or his-sided in his favor. So if they can catch Kusei out, stepping up too far to get a Q in with a couple of autos, then yeah, they can definitely punish. But I think also, it's on London United, specifically Dunlosi, maybe Divinus from time to time, just get out of the lane from the bottom side. Make sure there's consistently vision for Kusei to lean into, so he's always safe. Because, I mean, look at the top side river, you can see Sidon, I mean, he's beelining either to the mid lane or for an invade lane. It looks like it's the mid lane, because they want to shut down the Geyser.
Yeah, they really do. And early doors, Kusei needs to be careful. He's going to try and run,
Kusei's
but will be
dead.
caught out by the pillar, and there's no way out. First blood goes over to Shaolin, and perfect execution and perfect start.
Yeah, I mean, this is the risk you run, right? You lock a lane like this, you have to play around it even from the earliest of, points in the game. And I feel like the vision just wasn't quite there entirely. Kusei had, one vision ward on the bottom side, which just expired. And yes, whilst he was hovering the bottom side, just because of the way the angle of the gank comes in, he's never really going to be able to run out of that one alive, because the bottom side as well, Chris here and Den, they both had priority to move first. So even if Kusei decided to sort of path down towards his bottom side, probably would have died either way. Good moves from Domino to just ensure that this Kai'Sa doesn't get going, because we saw what it was capable of yesterday. And it is not exactly what one would maybe call balanced if this Kai'Sa gets ahead. So doing a great job shining it out.
Now, we're going to have to see if this matchup works if it's not dominant, right? Because one of the words I'd use to describe it from yesterday's Div 1 game, and
Is dominant, yeah.
Shaolin already grabs himself that first kill, gets it himself, which could be crucial because it gives him that extra bit of bite. But Kusei, not deterred from the aggressive positioning, has the ignite as well, remember, and Flash was held. So Kusei might have a get out of jail free card still in pocket if the next gank isn't so successful. But are we going to see just an early return from his side? Or he's still hanging around?
He's on his way. There's no vision here for Kusei, and I mean, Kusei just aggressively pushing forward. Fortunately, Sidon is being quite the solo queue jungler right now. I mean, I think the issue is there's just no information on where Dunlosi is. So I'll take the statement. I'll take the statement back, but maybe you'd like to see the visit towards his lane. Hasn't based either, so it's still sitting on base stats. So definitely the safer call, just to back away, not go for the gank, and we'll base to pick up Sheen. So now Sidon very, very strong at the skirmish, and actually brought the PTA with him. Not got what I feel like is the more common rune page these days with lethal tempo. Just because, and by the way, Trundle players, anyone listening, if you play Trundle jungle, max W first. It's just better. You get more stats, it's more efficient. You don't need the extra AD if you're autoing faster. Actually, you know what? Reed, let's call out Sidon for a second. Is he maxing Q or W? Let me just get a hover on him real quick. Okay. Wait.
That's fine.
I will pause. 2 to 3 points in Q is fine. So, we'll get a check back on that in like 5-10 minutes. When he's got points in W. Because it just gives you more dueling stats. Like the AD that you get and the steal away is obviously very nice. And there's an argument to be made, hey, he's against, effectively a full attacking AD comp. But
Feels like you're walking back on your point more and more as time goes on.
No, because the W just gives you more flat stats. It is
You
just...
can give me a firm statement.
Yes, I'm giving you the firm statement
at
that W
level
max is better.
7,
Yes.
you don't see 2 points in W.
Yes.
Sidon's trolling. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah.
In the eyes of Twitch
he's
chat.
trolling. In the eyes of Twitch chat, he's trolling. Yes, there you go. You got your solid statement.
Good. Glad to hear it. No ifs or buts around here. I don't know what Hitbrain puts up with when he's here, but with me, it's
not too much actually.
statements only.
Yeah, not too much. He's always bit of a bully, that guy, that Hitbrain.
Is he?
Nah, not really.
I was about to say. He's He's a lovely, lovely young man.
Well, I don't know.
I say being significantly older than me, but that is neither here nor there.
No, got the dragon, by the way, whilst we were
Oh
climbing.
yeah, you know, it's fine. Infernal, it's good stuff. Well done.
Which is definitely very nice for them. Then opened that onto the mid lane as well, just to ensure that Shaolin got that mid lane shove. We'll return back down to the bottom side, and just to make sure that Chris can catch most of this wave comfortably, which he certainly will be. And yeah, not too explosive, or certainly not as explosive out of that mid lane matchup as we were expecting. I think maybe expectations kind of raised a little high because of what we saw yesterday out of Eminez on the pick. Well, certainly still, it's going to be something that scales, right? We know that already. I think one thing missing, though, is Kusei should have a tier in his inventory, right? I'm pretty sure you do go tier with that build. So Dirk plus double longsword, no tier. Does mean if a tier is picked up, it's certainly going to be scaling very late. As with the spreader, full-blown commit.
Trigger, there's the ultimatum. Ice County starts away, but does survive. First kill of the game for London United.
Yeah, I mean, Isagel playing the role of prey absolutely brilliantly. No Ruthless Predator is going to lock down Isagel in this regard, and now Sidon here to try and make a return gank work.
Forward, looking towards Isagel, but can't quite find him. Velocity could be in trouble here, has to flash away himself. Will take a beating on the way out, but could survive. There's a lot of poke available. Flash forward actually will secure the kill for Shaolin. Isagel is out.
Yeah, Icegel's out. They lose Don Losi, but on the bottom side, London United, they gain a little bit more. So they pick up Chris, then able to walk away, but that's going to be a wave missed by Chris. I'm not going to pick up a wave, or a tower play rather back up, get to base, get back out on the map with a little bit of added tempo. No Herald was started up despite the fights on the top side. Sidon didn't feel comfortable enough picking up the Herald or starting up. So we'll have a replay of what exactly happened on the bottom side, because I imagine it's just a nice engage from Rel. Probably flash engage, I'd imagine, onto Chris. Oh, it's actually Den that starts it off, and it's probably returned in kind and flashed away. But it's just a nice flashy to lock down Chris, and I imagine the chase down is certainly there. Great stuff from London United bottom lane, just to punish a little bit of over-aggression from Den. Chris is the victim of his support's actions. And now London United, they will move Divinus up to the top side. Priority gained by Isagel as well. And they should just have that Herald in the bag. No package to worry about. Domino wasn't like they're too interested in securing that one for themselves. So London United with this Herald, where they're going to drop it? Because you know you've got three very strong candidates, in all honesty, to pick it up. And all the towers are about on 5 plates. I can't quite see the top lane tower as KZ eats a 4th shot. A lot of damage trying to farm up this wave. Yeah, so all the towers are full plated. So at this point, it's more or less about whether or not they're actually capable of dropping the Herald into either of these side lane towers, I would imagine. You can see Dunlosy taking his time around the top side. He's got 4 points in queue. He's not a Noah, unfortunately.
GG go next, I suppose.
I guess, right?
We'll be questioning that one in the interview.
Yeah.
Which will be a bit awkward if it's not Sidon who we're interviewing from Domino. But, you know.
I mean, look, I will say, if the only Trundle player in existence, Zanzara, maxes W, then I feel like there's a reason why it's been...
The only Trundle player in existence.
The only good Trundle player in existence.
Ooh, statements.
I mean,
rude.
I don't think it's much of a statement.
Sidon is currently playing Trundle.
Yeah, but I mean...
Right now, in a competitive game.
But he's
he is... Well, yeah, I get that, Reed.
Yeah,
I do get that.
Yeah, just repeating Reed for you, just say he is maxing Q, so... I don't know. I mean, if he had a default tempo, I think it would make more sense. But PTA plus Q max, I don't know. I'm going to nitpick as much as I can when it comes to jungle builds, because I can. As Rip takes a bit of a nasty trade from Isagel. But Domino will pick up the second dragon. No contest should come out from London United, so that's going to be early stacking. And we'll see Hextech, Infernal, Mountain. It's one of the 3. We will get the Hextech.
Hextech, very nice.
Which, Gates could be a big deal for both of these teams. I think with the limited amount of engage they have, unironically, if teams can use the Gates properly, you might see some funny flank angles come out in particular situations, as that's such a nasty thing to do, Icy Gale. Interaction is very, very irritating. you can still, of course, cast spells and abilities whilst your hook shot is flying out. So I guess that last chunk of the queue in as Divinus looks very, very antsy to get an engagement, but I don't think it's quite going to happen here as Ripped could be in trouble.
Yeah. He needs to be a little bit careful. Caught in the ultimatum. The damage coming on through. I don't think he gets out. Even with Dominus, Ice Gale picks up the kill.
Yeah, and now we have to take a look at the mini map because Sidon is there to cover, and Shaolin does have mid lane priority. So I'm not sure whether or not Ice Gale and Dunlop will be able to get the full tower, but you can obviously tell that they likely want to drop the Herald up here, though. With the showing of Sidon and the fact that mid lane first move would have likely have been Shaolin's, brief move away, but it looks like a little bit of indecision maybe. They'll get one plate, they'll move away. They've only got about a minute left to drop that Herald, so they need to think about where they want it. United not willing to pull the trigger on this instance, and Shaolin actually, if those creeps aggro the tower, there you go, one more will do it anyway. Picks up a plate. Definitely not the same kind of matchup we saw yesterday, and that tier comes in very, very, very late. So that's going to be a very late stacking one from Kusei.
He will be able to arcane shift away. He gets caught airborne though. The damage coming in is mad. Divinus dives on through, but KZ burning low. Denden flashes forward to grab the kill. But now Rel, there's no pony to ride out of this one. But it's still pretty tanky. Will get caught airborne, gets the remount, and goes golden, but there's no way out of this one. There we go. There's the shot for Chris to grab the kill. Domino's bot lane. Get work done.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. London United just get 2v2'd. KZ oversteps and maybe just not respecting the fact that there's Gale Force in the back pocket of Chris to additionally close the gap. So Domino find a lot of success there. It's not going to result into too much in the immediate future, but still the lead you'd like to see if you're rooting for Domino here, as Herald going to be dropped on the bottom side. It's not necessarily the best drop in the world, and you can see Dunlosi has to shove in this wave to get to the tower in time, which means that's waves KZ isn't getting. Sidon gonna look to try and even take down this Herald.
Fight is kicking off, but no one's really going low. It's a lot of flashy VFX, but in the end, the charge is the thing that's the most important. 2 plates gained, but the tower stands strong.
Yeah, tower does stand strong. Get the plates, but it only really goes onto Dunlosi, and I think it was actually shared between KZ and Divinus as Shaolin
has to flash away. Will get caught with the knock up though. No, the pillar will get him out. The slow is enough from Sidon. And Domino once again survive, weathered the storm a little bit, but are happy with what they've achieved so far, you've got to imagine.
Yeah, but this pressure's starting to bleed out of the bottom side a little bit. You can see it's giving Kusei the freedom just because maybe Shaolin doesn't feel comfortable 24/7. To sort of move down to the bottom side with Dunlosi bleeding into the jungle. Shidon's going to lose that red buff. Tower also very close to dropping too. Domino
off here. Dunlosi gets caught up, manages to get the smite through. No, and Denden in a little bit of trouble. Has Chris as an option. Shaolin dives on through. Damage coming through. The curtain call will be blown as Divinus takes the third shot. The fourth shot goes wide though as Divinus flashes away. Dunlosi dives on through and actually survives a surprisingly long time. Will be deleted though as Kusei looking for Shaolin. Can he get him? Yes, he can. But might well go down the same way. Chris has now turned up and is looking for another. Grabs a double. KZ will be the triple. Will be the victim as Domino grab 4 in the fight.
Yeah, I have to say, I think London United maybe a little bit indecisive on like sort of the outage there. Retreat wasn't quite all on the same page because Dunlosi goes back in, I think just recognizing he's probably going to die. And then Kusei, there was a massive window for him to go in all the way on the back line with the Killer Instinct, but she didn't feel confident enough, it felt like, to pull the trigger immediately. I hope we can get a replay of it. I can maybe sort of show a little more what I'm talking about, because you can see Dunlosi goes back in after this, right? So the engage comes in from Denden. It's not necessarily suspect. It looks it at first, but Shaolin is on his way. The curtain call gets dropped, and you can see Divinus and Dunlosi fully on the retreat. Sidon shows up, and Dunlosi just feels like he's going to be a sacrificial lamb. Goes back in. The stun is nice, and you can see it just feels like Kusei's maybe not picking a target. He's ignited Shaolin. He's autoing Denden, but he's also not autoing Shaolin at the same time. If you go one at a time, you feel like maybe Kusei can at least make a best of a bad situation here as a W. It does look a bit funky, but it's just the high ground, low ground. Does certainly connect as triple kill goes over to Chris, and we've seen what Fed Jins can do in this league already. It's not the first time we've seen a very powerful Jin, as this Hextech Dragon should be going over. Dunlosi might try and give away his life for it. Well, he's reared up now.
And he might give away his life, but the rest of the team turns up to save him. Isaac Gale's here now. And Domino in full retreat. Do not have Ripped in support as Dunlossie goes low, but stays alive for a second longer. Before a retreat from Domino, as they haven't lost a member, but teleport coming on through. Divinus will die as Ripped's here to rip up the fight. Gets the stun onto KZ. Swirling around, sniping down. Domino turn it around. It's 2 for 1 in the exchange.
Yeah, 2 for 1 in the exchange, but it's Domino that pick up that dragon. Now they're 1 away from Hextech Soul. I think they're probably feeling pretty happy about it. They get probably this tower on the bottom side. It'll be a little slow because Jin, not the fastest tower taker in the world, but Icy Gale should be able to hookshot out of this one. Not enough burst damage coming out of the Corki just yet. And Chris really being accelerated. I mean, he should have so much. He's probably got like 3k gold. 2.9k. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a full item actually on base. Rapid Fire Cannon is going to be his choice. And yeah, he's a whole item up now on KZ at the moment. Obviously, the tier and the cool fields, it's not really the highest amount of base stats. Also, the Essence Reaver, right? It's not exactly matching the efficiency, perhaps, of a Mythic first. So, Chris is massive. I think almost it feels like anybody that he gets his hands on or is afforded the opportunity to right-click is probably just going to die really, really quickly 17 minutes into the game. Now, Domino, I hope they just play off this for now. Use Chris as the bridge. They didn't really play into Ripped too much, which is definitely a little bit disappointing. It's meant that Icy Gale, whilst we haven't focused on him that much this game, he is 202. He's 147 CS for now, which not terrible. But this Camille will certainly scale into the later stages of the game. Have to keep our eyes on him as always. All right, now Domino, they will pick up this Herald. I think he just put it into the mid lane, or into the top side. Sorry, I thought mid lane tier 1 was still up. It's not, so 10 the numbers here. I think it makes sense. You can just drop this one for free, get a little more control towards the side. The Maz is the final outer tower. Domino get this one on a freebie. Just yeah, getting Shaolin as much gold as possible, I think, at the moment is the important factor.
As you mentioned, Chris is already pretty wealthy. Grabbing Shaolin a little bit more. Ice Gale was lying in wait, but we'll just step out to remove the Herald before a second charge. But Domino looking pretty nice. If the eye opens again, Ice Gale will be fine, and that is exactly what happens. But things looking pretty decent. Of course, Ripped, as you mentioned, not really been played around. Actually died when there was that successful team fight going on for Domino. Was taken down by Ice Gale in the one-on-one in the top side. But past that, and of course, jugglers can't be everywhere at once. My solo queue teams. Not
I'm
better.
with you on that, don't worry.
Yeah, it's just jungle things though.
I don't play League of Legends that much anymore. I watch everybody else play it.
But you don't.
No, player friends, streams, etc. of high-level players, but
I'd say I'm pretty sure I watched you stream League of Legends like
recently.
Relatively recently.
Yeah. Solo queue is in a kind of position where I don't know. It's not the most enjoyable right now.
I mean, I've just got like a 35% win rate, so...
Yeah, I have no obligation to play solo queue other than, learning certain interactions from time to time. So, yeah, I'm just kind of chilling out. TFT enjoying mostly as...
Oh, yes.
Away from my own solo queue pains. By the way, you said you're 35% win rate. I'm 2-7 in my placements. So.
Oh, man! That is not good. But Dragon's up in 1 minute 10. Baron's up now.
That's good for Domino.
Yeah, it is.
I think in the position they're in right now, Luden's Muramana finished up. Crusade nowhere near that power spike at all. And on the bottom side, I think KZ maybe has enough eventually to finish up this Muramana. He's recalling right now. And that'll certainly be a big spike, but Chris is still half an IM up on him. Yeah?
That I've got to ask is, obviously they're in a decent position to fight for the Dragon, you've got to imagine. Yep. How big is Hextech Soul when it's picked up in terms of, are we talking about like sometimes Cloud Drake where it's like this is nice but we're really just unlocking Elder?
No, I feel like it's a baby Infernal Dragon, honestly. I mean, you could even argue it's stronger than Infernal, I think. Okay. Whilst you don't necessarily get the scaling stats, I think the utility you get out of it is pretty big.
Idol's been called out by the ultimatum. That's the smite, that's the jungler, but he gets away and now the root comes in onto Ice Gale. He's the one called out and Sidon gets the kill. Q-Max Trundle doing so much work as the Lossy might now be caught out. The damage is big. KZ takes the 4th shot, but will be able to get away. Kusei thinking about re-engaging, but decides against. The package has been picked up. And as we talked about in the interviews before, if you've got package, you've got control. And Domino, definitely in the driving seat.
Yeah, I didn't even need the package for this play. It just felt like London United were a little bit desperate. They wanted to try and find a pick. And they managed to pick off the jungler, but Sidon, just a really well-timed flash, recognizes if I get locked down further up in the lane, I won't get any help. But if I get locked down towards this tier 1, not only am I increasing the distance that London United need to get to me, but my team also will back me up a lot faster. Now they have that Hextech Soul in pocket. And yeah,
A baby Infernal?
yeah, you know, there was a reason why I said after Baby Infernal, actually, no, it's just kind of better.
Yeah.
It's just kind of better. Yeah, you know, AoE slow. I recall going over the Dragon Soul win rates with a friend over the preseason. And of course, you know, F's in the chat for Chemtech Dragon. Not really. We're not paying any respect to that monstrosity. But that had, like, on average, around sort of an 88% win rate. 90% win rate, give or take, if you picked up the Chemtech Soul. Hextech wasn't too far behind. It was trading at around the 81, 82%. So, you know, it kind of gives you a bit of an understanding. And I think just to give you more of a sort of scale of reference, all the other souls sat somewhere between sort of 60 to 70.
Yeah. Which, again, sounds very high, but it's a case of if a team's in a position to
If a team's in a position to get soul, they're obviously,
that the
you know,
win rate is likely to be pretty huge. It was when people were saying, oh, this dragon has a 80% win rate, and I'm like, yeah, that's average.
Like, if something has, you know, I mean, it depends on the position, but if something has, something like a dragon, which is a neutral objective, has like a 10+% win rate on takedown compared to all of its counterparts, then I think
then something is amiss.
Something might be wrong. Yeah, something might be wrong. These dragons might seem stronger, and we know as Domino, they're looking for the fight.
They're looking for Divinus, and there's going to be the third shot. He dodges away. The fourth shot hits home, though. And it will be the rail going down. That's a pick. Domino could look to turn towards Baron, but they're more interested in turning towards Ezreal. That's another kill from Shaolin. And Tower is not really a wave to take it down. Pink's come in towards the Worm.
Yeah, go towards the Baron. Don't have a wave to work with. That's fine. We can go to the Baron. Icy Gale, he's doing his best here on the bottom side to try and pick up this tower, but just doesn't have a minion wave, bless him. Trying to execute that one. It'll be a lot of gold into his back pocket and his team's pocket, not only because it's that tier 2, but it's got a bounty on it. Pretty sure you could Sheen proc that, right? Yeah, good lad. 680 in his back pocket. 80 more towards him, but 80 extra gold for everybody else on Domino. And again, I mean, I actually read up on it because after being moderately confused about how they activate,
True.
If you remove the Baron gold, which Domino just had, London United were like only 2k down. And bounties were activated, but it is a mixture of XP difference, gold, towers taken, and something else. There's another very crucial factor. There's 4 in total.
Okay.
I don't think it's items. Somebody's telling me it's items, but I don't think it is items. I don't think that's something they can measure in game. But XP they can, gold they can, and certainly towers they have. And yeah, London United bounties for now active.
Factor in at all?
That could have been the 4th one, but I feel like the other ones are weighted a lot more heavily as Icy Gale.
At Scale Prophet, you're not going to have a minion wave because you just walked past Rift.
He's on a bit of a mission here. A pilgrimage, perhaps, on the side lane.
Guess he'll just recalled. Not knowing he doesn't have a wave, will be able to rejoin his team unless he's going for the world's longest flank. But somehow I don't think that'll be very successful as well.
I mean, there is a ward for him to teleport onto in the jungle, but I just don't know if it's really going to give him the angle because of all of the other vision wards set down by Domino. So they're just going to pick up this inhibitor.
Base open?
Yeah, base is open. And I'm just not sure what London United can feasibly do right now. As Shaolin's online, Chris is mega accelerated, also has the stopwatch, so even if he gets jumped onto, it's just not really going to matter too much because he should be able to reposition with the Gale Force and flash after the fact. That's the first inhibitor gone. They've got a wave to work with coming on the bottom side. Domino have to do something, and Shaolin's starting to put out so much damage as well. Bit of a timer. I think they just have to go. I think they have to just full Sendix. They're going to lose if they stay in this position either way.
Oh, they don't win it now when half health bars across the board. Kusei needs to be a little bit careful as Rip just popped the Dominos. Divinus goes into the backline but gets deleted immediately.
Oh.
Ice Gale's done the same but survives a little bit longer. Damage actually coming through. They're picking off a couple of members, but London United might be able to do this one. Dolossi goes low, but Chris is still alive on the side. It's a 2v2 now. Sidon will be able to get the snipe down from Chris, who will be able to get 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot. There's the kill. Didn't get the 4th because Trundle was hungry. And I think Domino, they've got a mid-wave, they've got a couple of members, they've got Q, Max, Trundle, and they might have the win here.
Listen, he's level 13. He would have both of them maxed. Well, actually, I guess when you
he's actually maxing W.
You would go pillar. Yeah. Domino, they pick up the win.
Yeah, let's go, Domino.
Style. I think London United, they go for the cheeky Kai'Sa counter pick. We saw how it worked yesterday. Unfortunately, the same level of execution wasn't quite there from Kusei. And just in general around the team, I think, you pick something like this, you have to play around it. You can't just sort of let it sit there. It's one of those counter matchups, where, the lane, especially it's the mid lane, right? It's not the top lane where matchups can be very, very isolated and one laner can't play the opposite side of the matchup. The mid lane can very heavily be influenced by the top side, by the bottom side, and of course, most crucially by the jungler, as it was. And I think Sidon paying the early visit there paid massive dividends throughout the game because Shaolin got a very free laning phase, whilst Ripped kind of fell behind. Yes, Chris was also the benefactor of plenty of action that ended up happening around the mid lane, around the bottom side as well. And you can probably credit a lot of that to, yes, London overstepping, but also some of the early plays that came through on the Trundle.
I mean, they asked the questions, they got the answers. London United didn't come up trumps, but we're going to be asking the questions in a couple of moments' time, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few.